So, it's been a while since I've made one of these. I haven't really had that much stuff that I actually could share to YouTube because of the nature of what I do, which is actually something I'm going to be talking about today. But anyway, this is a picture of my friend Gudeku's character, Nisha, who I drew because Gudeku makes some really cute characters and everything, and I wanted to draw her. You should also go check out Gudeku's work because she's really good. Anyway, for the record, you guys also were the ones who voted on this topic, so I hope you're ready to have it discussed. I had a little poll on my community tab, and talking about not safe for work content won overwhelmingly. Though I think a chunk of those votes were just because people thought, oh hey, he's going to talk about lewd things, or he's going to show lewd tutorials, and there's going to be lewd stuff, and it's going to be sexy and tantalizing, and no, it's not. I was pretty clear that that's not what was going to be the case. But you guys asked for this, so you made your bed, now eat it too. So, I said that I was working on other things. Obviously that means I'm working on adult content, because that's something that I make, and that shouldn't be a big deal, yet a whole lot of people, specifically on YouTube, not so much on other sites, lose their shit when they find this out, and it's really weird, and kind of uncomfortable for bystanders and myself. Here's the thing. A not safe for work artist is just an artist that happens to make not safe for work or mature content. That's not really that big of a deal, considering that pretty much every single artist at some point has done that, or most every single artist. There are a few who haven't. So, treating artists any differently because they do that is a little bit stupid. A lot of artists, just to avoid flack, will make a second persona, so that way they kind of separate that kind of stuff additionally, or add an additional layer of separation. But then when people find out about their alternate alias or whatever, it's back to square one and people are losing their shit once again. There is the whole Puritan mentality of traditionalists and sometimes religious values and everything that thinks that anything sexual in nature is going to be an obvious sin and is going to basically mean that you deserve to go to hell. Which, that's stupid, and I think we all can agree that's stupid, but I'm not really going to talk so much about them because, I will talk a little bit about them, but there's no getting through to those kind of people. They won't listen to anything that you say. I do, however, want to address people who actually do like adult content because there's a lot of people are saying about it, but there's a lot of people who aren't, and that's where things get really obnoxious. So first off, one thing I do need to also state is that while I do not safe for work stuff, I keep my stuff separated. This channel is PG-13. You have to be 13 years or older to register on YouTube anyway, so that shouldn't be a big deal. I do have some kind of suggestive things here and there, but it's all in the sake of humor, and it's never anything too far out there. And if it is, I put an age gate on it. I have precisely one video that I have done that with. The thing is that I also have other people and stuff who follow me who know that I make adult content elsewhere, and I post it elsewhere, and then they think that gives them license to basically make really kind of gross comments on anything that isn't not safe for work. And it's really annoying, it's kind of stupid, and the thing is that it kind of violates the sense of agency, which is a term I'm going to be using a lot here. Basically, my ideology behind adult content and stuff, and not safe for work and things like that, is it's not so much a matter of whether or not it exists, it's a matter of how you treat it and if you keep it separated or not. I believe that if you want to see something, there shouldn't be anything stopping you from finding it. At the same time, if you want to avoid something, you should be able to avoid it. You can't control whether or not other people want to see or avoid things, and you can't control what they see. You are responsible for your own media consumption. That is the cornerstone of my mentality on this. The problem is that when you get comments that are just completely inappropriate, that are going into graphic detail describing their genitals on a completely mundane image, just because it's a pinup, I've had some people say you reap what you sow, and it's that does not justify this shit in the slightest. It's fine to get excited about stuff that artists make and everything, and it's fine to comment on how you find it sexy and things like that, but again, going back to something I said earlier, a lot of artists, they will keep their not safe for work personas separate from their safe for work ones, just so that way they avoid this kind of conundrum. However, then when people find out, they immediately start treating them differently. when they really shouldn't. They're still the same person as they were before. Likewise, for those of us who don't keep those personas separate, like myself, I'm still the same person before people found out that I made adult content and stuff like that. That shouldn't be a big deal. I don't make any attempt to hide that fact that I do this kind of stuff. There's a bit of a generalization, among not safe for work communities and stuff about artists, and it's usually that the artists and stuff are generally really nice people. And this sounds like I'm gonna be talking about myself. I'm not trying to talk about myself here. I'm just talking about in general. A lot of not safe for work communities are generally pretty chill, and they're full of very chill and relaxed people. It's usually going to be the fans and stuff who basically wind up acting like quote-unquote degenerates. I will joke about degeneracy and stuff, but then there are some people and stuff who literally, they're acting not in a way that's just annoying, they're acting in a way that seems like they have never interacted with another human being before. And that's where things get kind of cringy. And this is one of the few cases where I will describe something as cringy, because that term gets tossed around a lot completely senselessly. I probably need to have a whole another video on that. But yeah, you get a lot of cringe comments when you make not safe for work art, whether or not the art itself is not safe for work that is being commented on. Also, going back to the note on agency and stuff, one key distinction on it is that, well, I do believe that you should be able to find what you want. That also assumes that you are able to find it, and things like that. I don't think that a underage individual should be seeking out adult stuff, and there's measures in place that attempt to dissuade them or hide stuff from them. But ultimately, if they are accessing stuff that they shouldn't be seeing, that's more an issue on the parent side than it is on their side. But at the same time, teenagers and stuff, if they want to find something, they are probably going to find it. I know how I was when I was 16, 15 and stuff like that. And let's just say that I was very determined. And eventually I did get caught, and I'll go into that a little bit later and stuff like that when I start talking more about the Puritan ideologies and things like that. But too long didn't read. I did get grounded for a month when I was younger for looking at adult content, and I got caught. Anyway, going back to the idea of comments and maturity and stuff from commenters and things like that. A lot of individuals who do comment these kinds of things generally come off as very immature as well, and I do kind of suspect that they are younger than you'd expect. And what also helps give that away is how many of them will make really repetitive and very dull FBI jokes constantly. I guess they're trying to play off of the whole Chris Hansen thing, which doesn't really make sense because that would only apply to child characters, not adult characters that are what they're commenting on. So it's just really stupid. Or they'll make comments about, if they're not making the obnoxious overreacting or role-playing kind of comments, instead they're making comments like, oh my god, you're going to be the next Shadman, which, just a little bit of a frame of reference for everybody. Comparing an artist to Shadman, probably 9 times out of 10 is not going to be a compliment. I don't think most artists want to compare themselves to him. I could say a whole lot on Shadman, but I'm not really going to bother with that because I think enough has been said already. I can't really say that I'm a fan of his art, not just for the content aspect, but also just because I don't really care for his style choices at all. But that's all something that's just subjective, and that's just my taste. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of obnoxious comments out there, and I really hope that I'm not inviting them by making this video. But for instance, on my community page, whenever I post art and stuff, I get somebody who repetitively comments hey, make more hentai, as if I'm not already making that kind of stuff. Which the only reason they're commenting that, I'm assuming, is because they don't actually follow me. Because, as I've said, I've been drawing a lot of adult content as of late because I've been catching up since my wrist is injured and I had a huge backlog of work. So enough talking about the creepy kind of commenters. Let's talk about the Puritans who judge everyone for liking adult content. And this is where things get a little bit weird as well. I would more say that the whole Puritan traditionalist mentality and stuff honestly is partially to blame for why these commenters exist in the first place, the obnoxious ones, because it basically creates a bit of a backfire effect. by shaming people for having an interest in adult content, which, if handled correctly, it's completely harmless. It might cause people to like suppress themselves and not learn how to healthily express their interests, and then it kind of comes forth in a very front and center manner, as you would see like in the comments that I've been getting. Or it might make people like lash out as a form of rebellion and everything like that because they want to upset these individuals. And that honestly is kind of a edgy response, but it's not an uncommon one. If you just think about like, as a simple metaphor and stuff, you think about like a kid who, when they're younger, their parents are very, very strict, and then they wind up becoming a bad delinquent when they're older and things like that. I'm sure we all can understand that trope. The other thing as well is like, by shaming adult content and things like that, and not safe for work and mature content, it kind of makes people afraid to learn things about themselves and afraid to express themselves. Like, this has happened multiple times. I've had a few friends and stuff who felt that they were damaged or broken or strange or creepy because of some kinks or fetishes that they had. And that's not a healthy way to view yourself. After talking with them a bit, I helped them figure out like where their interests had come from and stuff, and why they might have existed. And just talking through with them about it, they felt suddenly a lot better about it and learned how to like not feel like that was a flaw. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they would like go off and like seek out adult content or anything, but it made them feel a lot better about themselves. And Puritan mentalities, with how obsessed they are with shaming individuals, I don't think people realize how damaging that can be to others. And it's not right at all. What's more, it's also just incredibly hypocritical to judge others based on something that is otherwise harmless to others, when everybody has some kind of flaw, and there's way more significant things that you can judge people for. That's not to say that some concerns that they have aren't, like, realistic, though they don't treat them realistically, but things like porn addiction can be a thing. When you have people who are basically overly obnoxious, that is a legitimate concern. Like, I've been complaining about that this entire video. That is a concern that they would probably share. On the note of porn addiction, I had mentioned before that I had gotten caught when I was younger looking at mature content, and I got grounded for a month. Honestly, thinking back, I am fairly glad that I didn't wind up, like, having my own backfire effect, where I basically got kind of obsessed with that kind of content, because that would have been very bad. And, you know, honestly, thinking on it, I might have actually had issues in the past with a little bit of an addiction. I don't really know, because I never really assessed it too much. My parents' solution to that whole debacle wasn't to, like, talk with me about it, or wasn't for me to, like, figure things out and learn how to express that in a healthy manner. It was to avoid it altogether. Like, you stay away from that stuff, it's completely taboo. It really wasn't until I took those college courses that I came to understand more about myself and learned how to express myself in a healthy manner. But the reason why I make adult content now wasn't because of that event and me getting in trouble like that. It was more because I had actually taken a few courses in college that were focused on, like, media and, like, romance and how it's portrayed in the media, as well as, like, human sexuality. And these were all just elective classes that I just took because I needed credits. I was getting an engineering degree. But these courses wound up being very eye-opening to me, because they kind of helped me recognize that sexual expression isn't this taboo thing, or it shouldn't be this taboo thing, that there's logical reasons for why a lot of things happen and why they exist, and that it's better to control how we express those interests rather than trying to stifle them. And I'm not saying, like, everybody should do adult content. That's not what I mean. I just mean more like everybody should feel comfortable with what they're into, and they should feel comfortable about their own interests. They shouldn't be made to feel shame about this kind of stuff. And by not feeling ashamed and learning how to express this in a healthy manner, that would probably overall lead to a lot more sanity, as well as stop this stupid... You see a lot of fighting between Puritans and enthusiasts and stuff all the time and stuff, and it would probably stop a lot of that. It would also hopefully lead to people being a lot more sensible with like where they share adult content. Like, one other problem with the quote-unquote enthusiasts is that you kind of get situations where they are a little bit too eager to share terms and content with people who honestly, they get kind of surprised by it, or it's not in a setting that's appropriate. Like, sharing adult content in a public, safe for work setting is not good. Disregarding maturity filters is not good. As I've said, I keep my stuff separate. If you want to find my stuff, it's easy to find, but I also make sure to, like, I don't have just one blog, I have 2 blogs, I have 2 Twitter accounts, one for safe for work, one for not safe for work. I use maturity filters on sites where I post art, like Newgrounds and stuff like that. So I try to make sure that I have these separations up where as long as you want to find it, you can find it. If you don't want to find it, you can avoid it. And I try to accommodate that. And again, that's the whole thing with agency. You should be responsible for what you want to see. I'm just here to kind of help enable that, at least when it comes to my own content. The problem is that when you create situations where people aren't treating adult content realistically or mature content realistically, is that it winds up, for certain individuals, it winds up justifying things that honestly should not be justified. I'm going to take a little bit of a divergence here. One common thing that I often see regarding mature content and things like that, and certain themes, is that because it's fictional, it can't hurt people and it can't affect people, which isn't true at all. Art's entire purpose is to affect people. And while art might not harm somebody in the same way that a real event might, it still can affect people in a negative manner. That's not good, and that's something you have to be aware of. It's important to note that when I say this, I am not by any means advocating for censorship, because at the same time, if you censor something, it's probably just going to come back in greater force. And at the same time as well, censoring the content acts like the content itself is what's to blame, when in reality, it's more the ideas behind it, as well as the individuals who are expressing those ideas. It's not like I'm going to be advocating for like the rights of fictional characters or anything, that's just stupid. But what is important with art that is created and that you make is what kind of ideas that you are expressing. And there's ways that you can temper those ideas. Like, if there's something that you absolutely like know is depraved, but you're still into it, or you still want to make content of it, it's important to make sure that you have that separation. Because while you might be able to separate fiction and reality, there are some people who they don't. Like, for instance, I'm going to go to this topic, and it's probably going to spark a lot of controversy and fights in the comments, but lolicon. I don't like it personally. I can't stand it. But I mostly just kind of try to ignore it because, again, I just don't want to see it. But then over in some group one time, there was one individual who was constantly posting it, and it was getting really obnoxious and kind of disturbing. Somebody called him out on it, and what it wound up leading to was an argument, and eventually he justified posting his very lewd and suggestive art of very clearly child characters with the quote, word for word, "You can't tell me you have never looked at an 8-year-old before and thought, damn, she thick." No, I cannot say that I have ever looked at an 8-year-old and thought, damn, she thick, because I am not a pedophile, and he was literally admitting that he was. So ever since that event, I've kind of been a little bit... I kind of see red flags whenever I see somebody mention the word lolicon, and I get very, very, very wary of them. And the thing is like, I'm not really going to justify what he said at all. But the environment that he has basically surrounded himself in has basically convinced him that he is somebody who is normal, who does not need help, when he clearly does. And that is kind of the responsibility that I think everybody kind of has, not just artists, but also fans of adult art as well, is if you want to draw something that is questionable, you need to basically handle it realistically. And you need to make sure that there is a clear distinction between fiction and reality, so that way individuals like that don't make these kinds of assumptions and they don't develop into a state that this poor man did. I am saying poor man with extreme quotation marks with my fingers. I don't have any pity for this individual. So yeah, that topic is just, it's not very comfortable for me to discuss and things like that, but I have used that example to explain why I kind of get a little bit heady over that discussion every now and then. But basically, be realistic with how you handle mature content in general, and don't put it in places where it doesn't belong. Learn how to separate between fiction and reality. As an artist, sometimes just posting it only in certain locations also is good enough to help uphold that distinction. And at the same time, also just know that it is okay to make mistakes and stuff, and what matters is more what your intentions are. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't always been a perfect individual and stuff like that. I've made some mistakes and things like that when it comes to expressing myself and figuring out where things go. But I learn from that stuff, and that's what's really important. Is it's not so much, I guess it's, in many cases, it's not what you do, it's what you mean to do. And over the years, I've become a lot more savvy and patient and stuff with myself and stuff with that. And I've become a little bit more alert and aware of what people want to see, what people want to avoid, things like that. And I basically just try to embody that. Oh, one other thing that's also just a little bit kind of funny, I guess. When you do adult art, sometimes people will see oh hey, this person has a lot of cute girl characters. They must be a girl themselves. So what I wind up getting is oftentimes I'll get anything ranging from... I'm actually very lucky that I've never gotten a dick pic before, but I've gotten some pretty fucking close things, people offering it. I've also gotten unsolicited ERP, which is basically the nerdy version of a dick pic in my opinion. Where somebody enters your messages and whatnot and immediately starts role-playing with you in a sexual manner, pretending that you're some hot, sexy girl that they can basically just pork. And they're describing in graphic detail what's going on, and you have no idea what the fuck is happening. And it's really fucking creepy when you don't even roleplay at all, so you don't know why they're doing this. It's very cringy, a little bit funny, but at the same time, it's you almost feel bad for laughing. I guess in my sense, it also kind of gave me a little bit more perspective on what some of my friends have gone through as well, especially my female friends and stuff, because obviously I understand their stories and stuff when they've told me about things like this, and I believe them obviously, but you kind of empathize a little bit more when you've also seen a degree of it happen as well. And it's something that honestly should still be taken seriously. Heaven forbid that they do not say for work themselves. Additionally, it also just kind of gave me a little bit more reflectiveness on how I interacted with individuals in the past, not just even with sexual content or anything like that, but just seeing cases like this made me realize, oh hey, maybe those jokes I was making when I was younger kind of were a little bit on the creepy side and weren't really a good way to interact with people. Or that was kind of you were kind of disrespectful to this individual. It's kind of no wonder that they weren't really interested in you. Or even sometimes you see a comment and you have a more positive reaction and you're I was pretty cringy when I was younger, but at least I was never this bad. So yeah, anime titties made me a better person. I think that's roughly about all I have to say on this topic for now. Man, it kind of felt good to kind of get all this off my chest and everything like that. And this is a topic that I care a lot about because, since I make adult content as well, again, an adult artist is just an artist who makes adult art. It's not that big of a deal. But I also like learning about this kind of stuff. I want to kind of help break down some of the taboos that's around it and make people realize that it's not that big of a deal. It just needs to be handled better. I never want my art to intentionally harm someone, and I don't think art should be made to intentionally harm people. I just want people to be accepting of each other, to show respect and aiding of each other. So for next time, whenever I do have footage ready for another time-lapse video, what other topics would you want me to discuss? Some of the other topics from the poll included how to talk to people, specifically strangers and artists, because I get a lot of messages that are just like, hi, sup, and that's not talking to somebody. That's just, it's very exhausting to get that like 3 times a week. Other topics included like critique, how to give it, how to take it, mistakes people make. I personally really hate the whole sandwich method, so I'd be talking about alternatives to that, as well as just how to view critique as a whole, because a lot of people think that it's just listing off bad and good, when that's not really the point of critique. And then the other idea was like ideas and exposure, how to gain it, what ideas are going to resonate more with people, and kind of dissecting that. Or I could talk about other fun stuff like D&D adventures that I've had, because I play D&D every now and then. It all kind of just depends on what you guys would want to see. So, if there is a topic that you want to suggest or are interested in, comment it below, and I will take the popular ones and put them in a poll when I have footage available again. Anyway, once I am done with my current project, which again, I can't share it here, I will be working more on, I have a new animation idea, kind of, or animated stuff. Aside from like a lot of small things, I'm also thinking of making a little bit of a sequel, if you know what I mean.